Hello, everyone. We are just waiting for a few more people to join, so we will start in about a minute's time. Thank you. So I'd just like to welcome you all to tonight's webinar, Maximising Calf Value with NCBC Dairy Beef Teams. My name is Twomey, Dairy and Beef Geneticist with Munster Bovine, and I'll be the host for tonight's webinar. So I suppose this is a very apt topic. I suppose it's something dairy beef is really growing in dairy herds in recent years. And I suppose there's a big opportunity there for farmers to increase their value of their calf crop. And we've two excellent speakers tonight on the topic. I suppose later on tonight we'll have Rose Goulding, who's the head of the beef program for NCBC. And we also have Nicky Byrne, a senior livestock researcher with Teagasc. Nicky has extensive research done on dairy beef systems, on their profitability, and the benefits of genetics in these systems. So I will pass you over now to Nicky Byrne.
Okay, thanks very much, Alan. I'll just share my slides now. Okay, I hope everyone can see that. Um, okay, thanks for having me on this evening's webinar. And like that, I suppose it is very timely. It's now that these breeding decisions need to be made on farm about the animals that are going to receive a beef straw, and what beef straw is that animal going to receive, and what type of a system do we expect that resulting beef calf to fit into. So this evening, I'm going to talk a little bit about the trends and the application of the commercial beef value. And I'd like to thank Dr. Cleena Ryan as well for some of the data analysis that we're going to use in tonight's presentation. So I suppose to begin, what is the commercial beef value? We're hearing a lot of talk about the commercial beef value at sales time, but I suppose we have to look at what's under the hood and what makes up the commercial beef value, and really to outline how it differs from some of the traditional breeding indexes that we're used to. Um, so I suppose the CBV is a selection tool for non-breeding beef cattle. It gives us an estimate of that own animal's own profit potential within a grass-based beef finishing system. And the real beauty about the commercial beef value in comparison to other indexes is that it takes into account both the beef genetic merit of the dam and the sire. So it really can capture, the cow and sire effect in those resultant beef progeny. And it's a very, very simple index, that it only has revenue type traits such as carcass weight, conformation, as well as the feed intake and the cost of keeping that animal right through to finish. So these are very heritable traits. They're easy to measure. And when we have fewer traits in an index, we can see, more rapid gains come through in the animal's own performance. So it's a very simple index with the key profit traits included, and they have a very, very high emphasis on those high profit margin traits within the index, like carcass weight and feed intake, which I suppose combined, occupy over half of the overall index. So really, it's not surprising that when we look at our own cattle profiles in terms of what has been slaughtered, or look at it on a national basis, that we can really see that the higher CBV animals do back it up with better carcass traits, more efficient finishing ages, and better feed conversion efficiencies. But I suppose, how do we utilize the commercial beef value? I suppose one of the big ones that we need to start using is looking through that commercial beef value profile on our Herd Plus apps. Or when we're going into a farm to purchase calves or weanlings, we should be presented with this data, when we arrive on the farm and start to look through the animals, or even prior to that. And what we're buying calves from, farms that we've worked with over the years. And what those farmers have given us is, before any calf is born, they give us access to their expected calving report. And that expected calving report, based on the recorded sire used on that cow, it can give us an estimate of the calf of the commercial beef value of the calf that animal is carrying before it's even born. But where we've DNA birth registrations now, we can get a very accurate genomic proof for the commercial beef value of calves that are on the ground and in the herd's own commercial beef file profile. But also, if we look at our mart boards, where an animal is parent verified and has a genotype birth registration, or a genotype later on in life, their commercial beef value data will appear on the mart board. And we actively now have some of the, bigger type finishers going out and using commercial beef value to inform their purchase decision. And that decision has been based on analysing the data within their own herds, where they can see that these animals, have left them a higher profit margin over what they were bought in at, and that they can, acquire a higher profit potential from them. And I suppose how the commercial beef value works. The commercial beef value is presented, based on the animal origin. So we can see very, very high levels of commercial beef value, across the suckler categories. So these are, beef on beef bred animals. And they, for a 2-star animal, that's in the region of, under €300, pushing right up to nearly €500 for that 5-star suckler beef animal. We can see then when we have a beef cross dairy animal, that range from, 2-star up to 5-star, there's about €100 of a range in commercial beef value. And look, we can see that there is, differences, as you would expect, in purebred suckler animal versus beef cross dairy animals. There is a reduction in commercial beef value as a result of reduced feed conversion efficiency traits and carcass merit. And likewise, we can see a very drastic reduction in commercial beef value when we look at dairy cross dairy animals. And that's because of their relatively poorer feed conversion efficiency and reduced carcass performance, which is often at older slaughter ages. So we can see a different scale again for the dairy type animal. And I suppose if we look at the national profile of dairy beef animals over the last, 10, 15 years, we can see that it has been, up until 2022, we'd been quite static in terms of the commercial beef value or the beef genetic merit of animals nationally. But we have seen a big increase in the CBV, over the last 2 to 3 years. And I suppose, where did that increase come from? And if we look, to understand that increase, we need to look at the commercial beef value of the dairy population in the green line at the bottom of our graph. We can see that had been in decline over a good number of years and is relatively stable, perhaps slightly increasing since 2022. But the big improvement in overall commercial beef value has come from a reduction in the number of dairy cross animals. And if we look at the commercial beef value trend in our beef cross dairy animals, we can see that, during those initial years in the build up and around milk quota abolition, we had used lower merit beef bulls on the dairy herd. However, that decline in performance has remained stable over the last number of years, but there is a big opportunity for that to improve. But the big improvement in the overall calf crop nationally, which is significant, is coming from a reduction in the number of lower carcass merit dairy bred animals in exchange for beef cross animals. But we know that there's a larger potential from this if we can improve the beef merit of that increase in pool of beef cross calves. There's a real untapped potential there. And I suppose where we're going to see that is coming on the back of sex semen use. And we've some predictions, these have been around for a large number of years, looking at the increased uptake of sex semen usage in Ireland. And we've probably exceeded those expectations. But in the bottom left-hand corner of our screen, we can see what the expected number of dairy male calves was, at a certain level of sex semen use. So we're now in the region of about 220,000 dairy male animals born within our dairy herd on an annual basis. So that has been, a big reduction since 2022. And I suppose as it stands in 2025, we've seen the highest birth registrations of beef calves to the dairy herd, with a total of 63% of the total calf crop being sired by a beef bull. So we've seen a real rapid explosion in the number of beef sired animals coming from the dairy herd, and that has been facilitated by farmers, uptake of sex semen. And if we look at, a third of all dairy AI serves were to sex semen in 2025, which shows on an annual basis a 25% increase in sex semen use year on year. So look, there's, farmers their practices are evolving at a very fast rate. The uptake and use of the technologies available is remarkable. And, if we get better beef genetics used, it's really untold the potential that we can unlock from our dairy herd for the beef herd. But I suppose the first step in unlocking that potential is identifying suitable bulls based on the dairy beef index. And the dairy beef index provides us with a balanced type sire that offers calving ease, short gestation length, but also has, improved carcass traits. And it gives us that balance of suitable bulls for use on the dairy herd. And if we look at the CBV of AI bulls within the national population, within the Angus breed over the last, 10, 15 years versus the DBI of stock bulls at farm level, we can see that there's consistently, a gap of about 27 to 30 euros maintained between stock bulls on farms versus the population of AI bulls offered nationally. So look, it does show that there is, a benefit there in terms of the overall DBI, as well as, improved carcass traits and calving traits from using your AI sires. There's also going to be improvements there in terms of the reliability of that bull to deliver on that expected performance difference. But look, I think 27 euros, I think there's a much bigger opportunity to increase this gap. And as well as that, we're going to, over time, with better bulls in AI, you will see improvements as well come through in stock bull populations as well. But look, it's really important that those AI bulls, do offer a big improvement in their genetic potential. And I think that's what we are seeing in bulls offered today. And if we look at beef usage, over the last number of years, we've seen it really increase. And we're now at a point where nearly half of all AI serves on the dairy herd are going to a beef sire. And really, what's really interesting is the overall increase in total AI serves is resulting in more AI bred progeny entering the beef herd from the dairy herd. And I suppose, look, we've talked an awful lot about the sire and the potential of the sire to improve the progeny performance. And look, the sire can offer some real rapid and widespread improvements in the beef progeny coming through, but the cow is responsible for some of that efficiency seen in their beef progeny's performance. And I suppose, look, there's a big debate, often around cow type, but really CBV removes a lot of that debate and gives us an accurate estimate of that progeny's own performance, taking into account both the sire and the dam. But if we look at what dam type, means to the progeny's CBV, we can look and we can see here that a Holstein Friesian cow, generally with, taking into account all the different beef bulls used on them, their progeny over the last 15 years has resulted in a CBV of €155. And that's in comparison to the beef sire progeny from a Jersey cross cow. So these are typically cows ranging from 25 to 50% Jersey proportion in their makeup. Their CBV is typically €50 behind that of a Holstein Friesian cow. So we need to be conscious of that difference. So that difference is around €50 for a 25 to 50% type Jersey cow. So we have to ensure that the sire that's going on that animal is probably somewhere in the region of around €30 higher beef subindex to ensure the same level of carcass performance to a Holstein Friesian cow. And look, there is bulls out there that will do that. And if we look at the impact of beef sire breed when mated to the two respective cow types, and just maybe focusing on the Holstein Friesian for simplicity, we can see that the average progeny from Angus sired bulls over the last 15 years was €124 on the new commercial beef values. Very similar from the Hereford breed. Look, both breeds offer, similar type carcass performance and maturity nature. But when we start moving into our later maturing continental type breeds, we can see, big improvements in overall commercial beef value. And that's coming from carcass traits as well as maybe improvements in feed conversion efficiency. Likewise, when we go into your Belgian Blue, again, gone up to €264, with Charlie sired dairy beef animals having the highest commercial beef values, averaging out at around €270 over a 15-year period. And look, we can see that there is potential there through better beef sire usage to really mitigate any negative that might come through from the dam type, in question. And look, we often see that we're buying very high beef merit calves at the moment, and often we find that the really high beef merit animals can actually be used in some of the crossbred herds to try and, improve the efficiency coming from a dam type, that is of lower carcass merit. So look, the bull can, help us overcome any limitations in the dam, and the CBV captures that combination of dam and sire. But I suppose if we look at it nationally over that 15 years, why does CBV matter? And if we take it on the basis of every €10 increase in the commercial beef value, we can see nationally that results in an additional 3.3 kilo carcass weight, resulting in around €25 of additional carcass value. That mightn't seem like a lot, but if we look at some of those breed comparisons that we just went through on the previous, some of those are offering an additional €100 in terms of commercial beef value. That's going to be up on, 33 kilos of carcass weight and €250. And if we look at the improvement in our conformation, we're typically getting about 0.11 of a conformation score for every €10 increase in commercial beef value. So look, if you multiply that up by €100 jump in CBV, that's typically getting you from an O equals up to an R equals. And, subtle improvements in carcass conformation on dairy beef cattle mean an awful lot in terms of our bonus, our grid pricing structure, breed bonuses, all of those different types of, quality payment systems. Subtle improvements in conformation combined will maximize the price we receive per kilo. But I suppose when we did look at this increase in CBV on a national basis, we could see it did result in higher carcass weights, improved conformation. But as you could expect, with increased conformation, we are seeing leaner type animals coming through, and that is resulting in a slight increase in slaughter age, particularly driven by your late maturing type breeds, when we see big increases in commercial beef value. But I suppose if we look at commercial beef value within some of our dairy beef research trials, a recent study over a number of years that was conducted at Teagasc Grange. We assembled progeny from bulls high and low on the beef subindex within the Angus breed. And we can see that the progeny of the high beef subindex group, their CBV was 133 euros. That's in comparison to the low beef subindex group, which was produced calves with a CBV of 92 euros. But really importantly, we can see that over every day of their life, over that 21-month period, the high commercial beef value animals, gained in excess of 100 to 120 grams extra growth per day. And a combination of that extra growth per day resulted in those high CBV animals at the same age and finishing regime producing, additional 18 to 20 kilos carcass weight with slight improvements in conformation and maybe been a little bit more better finished in terms of fat score. And if we look at the profit per head, like this system, generated a net margin in today's money of about €2,500. And if we look at the profit per head, we can see that high commercial beef value calf, and look, it's probably not even high if we compare it to some of the calves that are coming out and been sold farm to farmer and marts today. Um, you know, they were producing a net margin per head of about €820, €120 higher than the lower commercial beef value animal. So that just shows the extra profit potential that can be gained by by breeding animals and going out and purchasing animals that have a higher commercial beef value does result in higher profit levels at farm level. So I suppose just to conclude, the CBV of the dairy beef population nationally is improving, and a big driver of that is sex semen and reducing the number of low value dairy males. But there is better beef bulls coming through in AI, and we're seeing them being used in increase in numbers, and that is going to have a positive impact on the genetic trend of the national herd. And look, CBV is working, and it's removing the guesswork from calf purchase. When we're buying calves or weanlings, a lot of the time, all we're buying is potential. And, it's very important that we've good, reliable indicators to get a good estimate of what they can do in our system. And breeding for higher CBV doesn't have to compromise, calving performance. We can increase the beef merit of our animals and maintain or even improve the calving ease and gestation length. And we just have to be very, clever with how we target maybe bulls with a higher calving risk, targeting them towards, more mature animals that are capable or can really minimize the negative impact. And beef farmers really need to, seek that commercial beef value information at the time of purchase. Look, it's there on the majority of calves, they've access to Herd Plus, and if, it can be great to have a sales catalogue. And look, you might be buying the group of calves, but it can be very important to help you determine if the group of calves are suitable and to come to a very objective type price for that group of calves. And I think, we need to buy accordingly based on the the beef merit of those animals. So look, that's all from me. If there's any questions, we'll try and answer them over the evening. Okay, thanks, Alan.
Uh, Thanks, Nikki. So apologies, I forgot to say at the start, if you have any questions, please put them into the chat box and we will take them. Nikki and Rose will answer them at the end of the night. I suppose just before we go on to Rose, Nikki, I think it's a important point you made there about the CBV and the farmer looking for the CBV. But I also think the dairy farmer could probably use it as a selling tool as well to kind of notify the farmer of that. So I suppose overall, I think I took really two important points from the presentation. I suppose one is CBV is working. It is giving more profitability to the beef farmer. And I think the other thing then is how AI has given that extra opportunity for a dairy farmer to increase that value through the use of sex semen and also with AI bulls that €27 higher on DBI over the stock bulls. I think that's an important point to note. Thanks very much, Nikki. We'll have any questions we'll ask you after Rose's presentation. So now we'll move on to Rose, who is the head of the breeding program for NCBC. She'll be well known to a lot of you here tonight, and she will go through on how we can actually improve the CBV to get that some of that profitability as Nikki was talking about. Thank you, Rose.
Hi, good evening, everyone. And you're welcome to our dairy beef webinar. What I'll do tonight, I'll just very briefly go through the national trends. Nikki has gone through some of them already, so I'll flick over those. I'll talk a lot about dairy beef and how to maximize the value of your calf crop. And then I'll move on to talk about the NCBC dairy beef program and the sires available from Munster Bovine. And I suppose the landscape in Irish cattle farming has totally changed over the last 10 years since the abolition of milk quotas. So the dairy herd has increased from 1.2 million to is plateauing now at about 1.5 million. We peaked in 23 at 1.6 million. But also the suckler herd has decreased from just over 1 million to 750,000. So we have twice more dairy cows now than we have suckler cows. And as Nikki pointed out, we have a lot more beef calves now from the dairy herd than we have dairy calves. And 23 was the pivotal year there where we'd more beef calves from dairy cows than we had dairy calves. And in 25, 63%, the beef calves made up 63% of the total births. So as a consequence of the suckler herd reducing and more beef used in the dairy herd, our total national beef production, 60% of it now is coming from the dairy herd. So dairy beef is very, very important part of our beef business here in Ireland. So it's really, really important that we get it right. And what I'll talk about tonight is how we can get it right through the use of correct genetics. And with the NCBC dairy beef program, and all the sires from the NCBC program are available through Munster Bovine, there are a number of fundamental things that we absolutely get right and that are the focus of what we do and what we're all about. And the dairy beef program is designed to maximize the profitability of the dairy enterprise and the beef enterprise in the dairy herd. So if we just talk first about the dairy enterprise in the dairy herd, how does our dairy beef sires maximize the profitability there? And the first thing is very high conception rates. We've independently verified field fertility in our sires, and it's something we're very, very strong on and something we work very, very hard on. So high conception rates from the NCBC sires. With your superior fertility then and your high conception rates, you have fewer empty cows at the end of the season. So that in turn will give you more days in milk and more milk solids. Also then with our dairy beef sires, easy calving and short gestation. That means that with the dairy beef sires, if used correctly, you won't have any trouble calving. So your dairy beef sires won't impact on your dairy herd from a calving point of view. Moving on then to maximising the beef value, using the high beef sub-index sires will give you the highest CBV or commercial beef value. So, and that's what Nicky was talking all about there, was getting the high CBV calves, and we get the high CBV calves by using high beef sub-index sires. So the program is about taking care of the dairy side of the house and also the beef side of the house within the dairy herd. And just simply, if we look at what we're trying to do, and if we look at the normal genetic trends, we're trying to improve the quality of the beef calf from the dairy herd all the time. So that's carcass traits, carcass weight, carcass conformation. So that's all about the beef sub-index. And in general, the way the trend goes is, as you try and improve those beef traits, calving difficulty also increases. And with the NCBC program, because we test a lot of sires every year and we test them very, very rigorously, and we're testing more sires every year, we're finding more and more what we call curve benders. So we're finding these super sires here that have the carcass traits, but don't have the calving difficulty. And that's really what we're trying to do all the time, is to get that balance right, improve the beef sub-index, and keep the calving. And I think if you look at the sires available through Munster Bovine over the last 10 to 15 years, what's available now relative to what was available 5 years ago and 10 years ago and 15 years ago, you can see that we've really achieved this. We've really improved the beef side, all the carcass traits, and we've maintained the calving. So that's the goal, and we are achieving it. Now, how do we do this? And we do it by testing a lot of sires every year, and then removing the ones that aren't delivering for the dairy herd donor. So, you know, we start off with 11,000 genotyped beef pedigree beef calves. We select about 35 for the program, and the first hurdle these bulls have to jump is field fertility. And if they don't achieve our standards for field fertility, which are extremely high, we remove them from the program. They don't end up in your farm. You don't see those bulls anymore. Of the 25 then that are selected with the superior field fertility, the next hurdle they have to jump is calving ease, gestation length, calf quality, calf colour, and any other issues like scurs and so on. So more bulls are removed at this stage. So when you get to the stage where the proven sires are available to you through the technician service and through the DIY, those proven sires, they're proven for field fertility, they're proven for calving, they're proven to have good colour, and they're proven to have good calf quality. So we've taken the risk out of it in all the steps along the way. And finally then, the cream of the crop are the premium proven sires. So they're the bulls that basically you can't go wrong with. They have very high field fertility, they're good on calving ease, short gestation, and good on carcass traits. And good on carcass traits means that have high beef sub-index and you'll have high CBV calves. And I suppose the proof is in the pudding, and the results from the latest evaluation from ICBF, on average across the board for all the important breeds, we've 7 out of the 10 top sires on the active bull list. So the program is working and it is delivering, and it means the top sires are available to you through Munster Bovine. Now, so just moving on to how do we best use, how do we select our beef sires for the dairy herd, and how to plan the breeding season. And I suppose as a dairy herd owner, when you're planning the breeding season, you have 2 goals. your first goal is to produce the next generation of high genetic merit replacements. And then the second goal is to produce high value dairy beef calves. So what I'll focus on here tonight is producing the high value dairy beef calves. But at the start of the season, the cows are selected. The cows that are not suitable for replacements, they get beef from the very, very start. And your top cows then get your high EBI sires, and as the season goes on, then you'll end up using beef sires as the season goes on in all of them. So how to select beef sires for the dairy herd to make sure that you get the most valuable calf crop possible. And the first thing to do is select your breed of choice, and we all have a breed preference. So select your breed choice first. After that, then divide your females according to their parity. So and this is the joy of using AI over using stock bulls. You can use different bulls and different breeds at different levels of calving depending on the parity of the female. So you use different bulls on your maidens, then you will in your second calvers, then you will on your cows and your mature cows. And when you get up to your mature cows, you can use the really high beef sub-index sires here, and you can use the breeds that have the very high beef sub-index, like your blues, your limousine, and your Charolais. With your maidens, your priority is calvingese. So the only breed available to you there is Angus. With the second calvers, you know, you don't need the same level of calving as you do in your maidens, so you can use higher beef sub-index bulls, and so on up along. So that's the advantage of using AI. There's a huge choice of sires in all the breeds suitable to put on the dairy herd. So once you have your calving difficulty sorted out, what you're comfortable with to use on these different categories of cows, then select the highest beef sub-index within that group. And then at the end of the season, come in with your very short gestation sires, and I'll go through what ones we have available later on. And also at that stage, once you're getting into the latter end of the season, they'll be the last cows calving. The condition score will be that bit higher. You can go back to being a bit more conservative and calving at the end of the season and going back to the bulls that we would recommend for second calvers and cows. So you can really customize with the use of AI and the selection of beef bulls that are available to you. Moving on now to the sires available, and I'll go through them according to breed. Now, this is the way the bulls are presented in the Munster catalogue, and these are the Angus sires that are proven. So when we say proven, they're proven for field fertility, they're proven for calving, and they're proven for carcass traits. Now, the gold bulls are what we call the premium proven bulls, and these are the bulls that are really superior on all of those traits. The bulls are ranked on beef sub-index. So the ones at the top will have the highest beef sub-index. But when you're starting looking at these panels, it's best to start with the calvingese, because you know we all have a limit as to where we want to take the calvingese. So once you've selected the calvingese of the sire that you're happy with, then select the highest beef sub-index after that. Now, as you can see, the choice is huge. So, and as a general rule of thumb, if you select the premium proven sires, you won't go wrong. It's also interesting to compare the sires available from Munster with the breed average. So if you take the Angus breed here, the breed average for beef sub-index is 88. And we have this many sires that are far, far ahead of the breed average with proven calvingese. And if you look at the number of dairy records available from the proven panel of Angus sires, there's about 100,000 dairy records there. So when you're looking at this panel, you can really hang your hat on the index because they're so heavily proven. So when you're looking at a calving figure there of Twomey at 2.9%, 10,000 records, you know, you can totally believe that figure. And it's not the same when you're looking at the younger test bulls. With the proven bulls, you can really rely on the figure. So just to finish up, look at the dairy cow calving difficulty, because that's the most important thing, because we don't want any calving trouble. Select the highest beef sub-index, and then at the end of the season, go for the shorter gestation sires. So the bigger the minus, the better. So at the end of the season, we'd be recommending Vingabus at -4.5, Twomey at -3.5, Valentine at -2.8, and then Horatio, and then West Ellen Boss. And then this gives you the average number of days you can expect when using it on your dairy cows. Now, in addition to the beef sub-index, another useful figure to look at is the carcass weight, because the higher the carcass weight in general, the better beef sub-index you will have. Now, the Angus breed average is 8 kilos, and you can see our top bulls there are nearly twice that. So with the benefit of AI, you've got the proven field fertility, you've the proven calving ease, you have a big choice of sires, so you can use different sires then depending on the parity of your cow. And we give a recommendation here on the right hand side of the column, whether it's mature cows, most of your cows, and then your younger cows, your second calvers. So that's all our breeds are presented in panels like this, and that's the way to read them. Angus for maidens then, it's not the dairy cow calving difficulty figure we look at, it's the dairy heifer calving difficulty figure. And as a rule of thumb, we want to stay under 7.5%. And again, the premium proven are the best bulls to use, they're the most reliable. And you can see the number of records we have there on our proven heifer bulls. They're 12,000 and 9,000. So the number of records in our sires are absolutely huge. These are bulls that are what we call proof pending. So the next evaluation we will have is the end of March, and then the next one after that is May. But by the end of March, we will know for sure whether these rising stars for maiden heifers will be suitable for maidens or not. So we have 3 panels of bulls available in each breed. So the proven are the ones that are fully proven on all the traits. Then we have what we call our rising stars, and with these we have field fertility on them, but we don't have calving yet. But because these are younger and they're the next generation of genetics, you will find very high beef sub-index sires here. But use have spread of them because we don't have calving. We don't have calving records on them yet. You can see that here if you look at the number of calving records. Bundy's a very interesting bull there. He's the highest beef sub-index available at 160. Bear in mind the breed average is 88. And he's a carcass weight of plus 27 kilos. So very interesting young bull. And then our elite genomic test sires. These are our young bulls. They're just out. They're in their first season. So with these, we don't have calving difficulty, or we don't have field fertility. So these are set test sires. So if you're using these, use a spread of them, and don't use any one bull heavily. They are the new generation, so you will get the highest beef sub-index, but just bear in mind you won't have field fertility on them and you won't have calving. Now we've 2 very interesting bulls here. Prohorst Eagle is the #1 Angus on DBI available anywhere, available in the country, and Domino's the #2 bull. Also available in Angus, we have a triple mix where we have 3 sires in the one straw, and it has been proven there is an advantage here from a fertility point of view with the triple mix, but with the level of field fertility you're getting with our sires anyway, the improvement is marginal because when you're at a very high level, it's harder to get higher. But we've 3 options available there. Okay, moving on to Hereford, and again, working with the panels, it's exactly the same principle. And the other thing to bear in mind is you can compare all the figures across the board regardless of breed. So if you have a Hereford that's, take Watson here, that's 4.3% on dairy cow calving difficulty. If you have an Angus that's 4.3%, you can compare those, you know, like for like. And the same if you have a blue at that level or a Limousin at that level. So you can compare all the figures across the board. And again, we have a proven panel, a rising star panel, and an elite genomic test sire panel. And the proven premium sires, they're really the sires that are the safest to use and will give you the best results. And our top 3 bulls there are Soulpole Watson, Midford 1 Whizbang, and Netherhall 1 Rafale. Watson and Whizbang are homozygous polled, so you can see got 2 double P's after the name. 2 highly proven sires producing very, very good results on the ground. Same with the Rising Stars, same principles as with the Angus. We have field fertility on these, they're proven for field fertility, but we don't have calving yet. So the calving is just starting. You can see here we've 67 records for titanium. We've an exceptional range of young Herefords this year. These are the new generation. There are young bulls. Boru is the #1 Hereford in DBI and the #2 on beef sub-index, a really, really exceptional bull. And you can see there his beef sub-index at 133 relative to the breed average. And again, like the Angus, we have a triple mix available as well. The blues and the improvement that's been made in blues over the last number of years is absolutely phenomenal. When you look at the beef sub-index and you look at the level of calving available. So if you take this bull here on Lev, BB9373, he's a massive beef sub-index of 165. He's only 4.7% calving difficulty. And bear in mind, our top seller for years and years was a bull called Manitou, DBZ. He was 8% calving difficulty. We don't have any bull on the list now that's 8%. They're all less than that. So as the program is maturing and as we're testing more sires every year, we're really achieving keeping the calving and maximising the beef sub-index and the carcass weight. But the top 3 bulls to use here in the blues are Anglev, Purcell, Super Calf Quality, and BBG Hybrid. And they're all less than a bull that was our top seller a number of years ago, Manitou DBZ. From our young bulls, Ioma Quirky, we've calves coming on the ground of him now. They're really super quality, very good in calving, very good in gestation, and very good in colour. So he'll move into our proven list once we're happy that we've enough records on him. But at the moment, he's looking very, very good. Charolais, again, we've a great range of sires. Orby is the really top bull there. He's the premium proven bull, 4.9% calving difficulty. And if you compare that to other breeds, you know, you'll find Hereford and Angus with that level of calving difficulty as well. So it's important to look at the figure and don't just assume, you know, that if it's a continental breed, that it will have a higher calving difficulty. Because with these, we have the records. We've 1,700 calving records off Orby. So he's very highly, highly proven. Super bull. And the other bull we'd recommend for dairy is Romarin. He's a pole bull, 4.6% calving difficulty. And this is actually a sample of calves, a combination of Orbeez and Romarins, really good quality, and you can see the colour mark the calves really, really well, both of them. Limousin, another great choice in the dairy herd. And again, look at the calving, because in the proven bulls, you can really rely on the figure. And we've worked very hard on gestation in the Limousin breed, and it's really, really paid off for us. So Shannon Stammerai is the #1 Limousin on gestation length. So he's a minus figure, so the calves will come just a little bit before time. So he won't add any days. And Shannon Stan, the calves will come bang on time. Proper is a little positive on gestation with just +2. So really interesting breed. And with the likes of Proper, for example, that's slightly longer in gestation, he's a bull you can use at the start of the season when you're not so worried about gestation. And as the season goes on, then you can move on to Stan and then Samurai towards the end. And again, that's the joy of AI. You can select different sires and different breeds depending on your cow type, your cow parity, and the stage of the season. And in that way, then you really maximize the value of your calf prop. Aubrac, we have the top sires in Aubrac also. Tullochmore Magnificent is an exceptional proven sire, one of the top proven bulls available. And from the young bulls, Deer Park Ultra is the #1 Aubrac on DBI. An interesting breed, good on calving, good on carcass weight, and good on carcass conformation. Theo is a young bull, super quality, and he's polled as well. So just to sum up, I suppose the big advantage of using the Munster bovine sires is you have a huge choice of sires. So you can select different sires depending on your cow type, your cow parity, and the stage of the season. We're very, very strong on field fertility. So very high conception rates. For the proven panels, there's a massive choice there of easy calving short gestation sires. And with the high beef sub-index sires, they will give you the best quality calves, and they'll also produce the calves with the highest CBV. So great, thank you, Alan. I'll leave it at that.
Super, thank you, Rose. So there's a few questions there, so I'll ask them there now. And if anyone else has any questions, please just put them into the chat box. So I suppose just to summarize there on Rose's presentation, I would say the two big takeaway points there for me would be, I suppose, is there's a huge choice now available of beef bulls there in AI, particularly there within Angus. There's a wide range of premium proven sires. And what I took is there's actually little or no difference actually within even that premium proven range. They're all exceptional bulls within that. Another big thing was the huge number of records that are backing up these bulls. So like Rose said there, that's calving ease and gestation. It's rock solid because there's a lot of records behind that. So I suppose just based on that then is, I suppose there's a question coming in here. You said you went through the different stages for the bull. At what point, how many records does a bull need, Rose, by the time you say that it's proven?
Yeah, well, but with the way our system is, with the type calving, we're usually happy enough at about 200 or 300 records. But in reality, our proven bulls have more than 1,000 records, and some of them have up on tens of thousands of records. So I'd be happy enough with 250 or 300, but the reality is our proven sires have more than 1,000.
Yeah, and like you said, and that's, I suppose, big important thing is that's over a wide range of different herds, different cow types that they're being used on. So it's exceptional data. I suppose there's a question here for Nicky, and you spoke about the CBV. I suppose it's a value, and we've all these stars, but let's say, what's beef farmers, what's their target CBV value, as you can see in the ground?
Yeah, so I suppose maybe basing it off the Ballyvadden dairy beef demonstration farm, we set a kind of a base value for commercial beef value for early and late maturing breeds. So we work off a base early maturing animal of €130. So looking at calf registrations and the profile of calves, above €130 being of Angus and Hereford breeds, they're going to offer you, higher carcass traits than your average type Aberdeen Angus or Hereford animal. So, you know, kind of 120, 130 upwards, you'd be saying are very, very high quality beef calves within the Angus and Hereford breed. If we looked in at our later maturing animals, we're adding €100 onto that commercial beef value, and we're operating off a base of about 220 to 230. And anything above that, is exceptionally high levels on the commercial beef value. And maybe based on that Ballyvadden project and how we price calves, every €1 increase above that base value for commercial beef value, we give €1.50 extra for those early or late maturing breeds above their base value.
And I think an important point there is, as far as my knowledge of that farm is, there's actually a good share of calves actually coming from crossbred cows. And even within breed, they can achieve that above that value of a crossbred cow.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, careful sire choice, across those herds, we can use really, really ambitious bulls in terms of their carcass value. And with the farmer's input on that and the careful choice of the cows to target those bulls too, we can really minimize any negative on calving. But one thing that we do work on in that project is to use a proportion of new test type sires within the project. So they do come with a higher element of risk maybe because they may have lower accuracy, but we really try to target them towards those mature cows, but we feel it's really important to be constantly trying out, those new generation of bulls to, identify those outliers coming forward and influence the next generation through more accurate information.
Uh, Thanks, Nicky. And I suppose there's just another question in there, kind of following on from that. I suppose the CBV is kind of new. Some it frustrates maybe, some dairy farmers they're doing using these exceptional beef bulls, but maybe they're not the beef farmers not fully engaged with the CBV. Do you see that usage increasing? And what can be done actually to promote it?
Yeah, I suppose last year, and we've seen the same this year, early on in the season, we saw a very good relationship between CBV and calf price. And I think if you look at it now in the early months, but when we saw the export for that beef sired calf kick in late on in the season, we saw the relationship between CBV and calf price, weaken a little bit. But really, if we're focused on domestic customers or farm to farm types, farmer to farmer, we do see CBV been rewarded there. But on the export market, where those animals are going to fit into a completely different and foreign type finishing system, where the profit rates are completely different, we don't see the relationship been as big in that market. But I think year in, year out, to breed calves suitable for finishing in Ireland, the CBV is of huge value, and we will see our own dairy calf to beef finishers reward that. And look, at the moment, it's working out about 55 to 60 cent for every euro higher in CBV. Calves going through the mart, it is increasing sales price somewhat, but the benefits exceed that increase in calf price, most certainly.
And also, Alan, if
Thank
I
you,
can,
Nick. Oh, go
I can
on.
come in there if you don't mind. feedback we're getting as well with the dairy herd owners that are using those high beef sub-index sires. They find that their customers come back year on year on year. And that's the big advantage they see. You know, they have a customer, they have a relationship with, and they're both happy. The dairy farmer's happy, the guy buying the calves is happy. And then with that repeat customer, there isn't any hassle, you know what I mean? And the calves are collected, they're collected early because the customer knows the genetics is good, I can rely on this herd owner, and I'll be able to make money when I finish these.
And maybe I just add to that, and maybe you could make a comment on it. I suppose at the moment, calf prices are at an extraordinary level. A lot of that, now dairy farmers don't know what to ask for. Beef farmers don't know what to pay for. Maybe from your knowledge, Nicky, of beef systems, where do the calf price should be at, and are we should this come back a small bit, or where do we think it's going? Let's say at a beef price, we'll say the current beef price is at €8.
Mhm. Yeah, I suppose, Alan, if we look at the average of the calves going through the marts, we can see that your kind of 2 to 3 week old Angus bull calf or Hereford bull calf, we'll treat them the same. They're trading just slightly in under €450. And really, that's where some of the profitability figures we would have modeled, they're based in around that 450 for that type of calf. Look, provided that calf can back it up with the genetics to respond to expensive feed and things we're going to put in over the lifetime, that probably is where it is at. If we go every euro we go above that, we're going to erode into our profit potential from that animal. So look, I think one of the best places to look at calf price, it's on the ICBF statistics page. They give a weekly update on calf pricing. And really, I think we need to be looking at that figure rather than misleading headlines. Farmers don't know what they should be asking for the calves at home. And likewise, the farmers that are looking at buying calves are nearly intimidated by some of these headline figures as well. Whereas if we look at the data and what the majority of calves are making, you're going from 450, then for over 3 weeks up around 60 kilos, they're coming in around 520 to 540 for that bull calf. So look, weight, CBV, the health status of the calf, they're all going to determine what they're worth.
So I think it's important. So at this, although the price is very high, with a high genetic merit calf, that beef farmer can continually make a profit at those current calf values if the CBV is high and they're using a good beef bull. So Rose, there's a few questions coming in there, and I suppose there's two actually about Lepan. Is he still available? I suppose you can take that question, and I suppose on top of that, there's another question. Then is, what's the best Belgian blue you'd recommend, or the safest to use on Holstein type cows?
Okay, so first question, yeah, Lapan is still available, but I didn't talk about him because we have a good range of Charlie sires available. So Lapan is still available, but he's very good on calving, and his calves are making very, very good money at the mart because they collar them well. But I would say Orby is equally as good a bull, if not better. And then Romarin is the new bull that's coming on stream. And we are seeing an increase in usage of the Charlie breed with these proven easy calving sires. So it's a win-win. You put them on your mature cows, calving ease is there, and you get a very, very good price for your calf.
Yeah, there is an exceptional increase there on the Charlies, and I think most farmers that have used them are actually going back to using them again, which is a great sign. So I suppose, Jen, just that person had another question then on is, what's Belgian blues would you recommend then for Holstein type cows?
Belgian blues, again, we have a very, very good range. So depending on the level of calving ease that you're comfortable with. And I suppose as a dairy herd owner, the best thing to do is have a look at the sires you used last year have a look at the proven sires, look at their level of calving ease, and if you were happy with that, you know, go the same again. If you weren't, you can go a little bit easier. I've names now, I don't have codes. Onglev is a super bull because he's very good on calving and he's very good on quality. Purcell, little bit higher in calving, but super quality. They'd be two bulls I would really, really highly recommend. And if you want to go exceptionally easy, you could go with Moneyman.
Very good. So there is a wide range there as well within the Belgian Blues.
And
I
they're all
suppose
fully proven.
like a question for the two of you, and I suppose Rose, you kind of touched on it. I suppose dairy farmers, it can be, you're just after calving, you've just been going to the breeding season, and there can be a lot of challenges then with AI. And as the time pushes on, people are anxious to put out a stock bull. I suppose maybe could you both touch on the benefits of continuing beef AI further on later on into the season?
Yeah. Couple of things. As the season goes on, yeah, people do tend to use the stock bull a little bit. I suppose the advantage of using AI over the stock bull is you will have more reliable conception rates. It's unlikely to let you down, which a bull can. Also, as herds are bigger, it's very hard to manage stock bulls, and there isn't that issue with AI. Towards the end of the season, the really short gestation sires are very, very useful at the end of the season to tighten up that calving pattern. So I suppose the advantage of AI is you have the reliable conception rates, you have the very, very short gestation, you have the proven reliable sires, and you have better quality calves. In general, with the stock bull, what some herd owners tend to do is they buy the bull suitable for dairy heifers the first year, and that's the bull that gets used on the cows the following year. And in general, you won't get the highest beef sub-index from the bulls that are suitable for dairy heifers.
Nicky, do you want to make a comment on that?
Yeah, I suppose we're probably in an era now where we've an awful lot of herds using a lot of wearable technology such as heat detection collars. And really where farmers have invested heavily in that, it probably makes good sense to continue on in pushing, the use of elite genetics to maximize the value and potential from that calf crop when you have invested so heavily. And look, like that, bulls are expensive to buy, to maintain, and there probably is lower accuracy on their figures, be it that they could be harder calving, or else maybe they're really easy calving, but that they're not going to deliver in terms of the carcass traits for the person who comes and purchases those calves. So I think it's just there's a lot more unknowns, there's a lot more cost, and I think we've created that opportunity with fertile herds, with the use of technology to increase, and reduce the dependence on that stock bull and maybe have a lower breeding cost as a result of that.
Excellent. So I suppose we're near the end, and I suppose there's just one final question. So this is for Rose. I traditionally use just one Angus AI sire. Should I be picking a separate bull for cows and my maidens?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. With the maidens, highly proven bulls suitable for maiden heifers is an absolute must. We've a number of bulls there that are proven. On the cows, you can use a much bigger range of bulls, and you can also use higher beef sub-index sires depending on the parity of your cow. So if you really want to maximize the value of your calf crop, you should be using different sires on your cows than you would your heifers, because you'll get higher carcass weights, higher beef sub-index, and you'll still have no trouble calving because your cows have greater calving ability than your maidens. And it's also prudent to use a team of sires. The choice is there, spread the risk, use a team of proven premium bulls, and that's really the safest, most reliable option.
I think that's a very excellent comment to finish on. So I will just, I suppose, briefly summarize. I suppose we heard at the start tonight, I suppose, how the CBV has really been shown to be successful. That better beef bull is giving you that opportunity to have a higher CBV calf. That's giving the beef farmer more profitability. So therefore, it's more likely he'll come back and buy that beef calf. And I suppose then we saw how there's such a range of beef sires now available. And just in that final point there by Rose, I think the big important point there is that there's a team of sires now can be used. So just like your dairy bulls, you're using a team of dairy sires. You should be also using a team of beef sires and picking them for different cows within your herd. So I'd like to thank Rose and Nicky for their time tonight. I'd like to thank everyone that tuned in and participated in the questions. And finally, I suppose this was a recording, so if you want to hear back anything that was said tonight, it will be available on YouTube and on the Munster Bovine social media channels tomorrow. So from there, thank you all and good night.
Thank you. Good night.
Thanks, everyone.